That's the way to do it.
Welcome, everybody. Please join us in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, everyone. In the signature folder, we take a motion to approve the minutes of August 9th, 2022.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion to approve the modified minutes of April 12th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. We also signed a warrant for a change in land use. And signed one intent to cut. Make a motion to approve the manifest dated August 25th in the amount of $337,271.43.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And in the mail folder, we had a motion for a rehearing with the VTLA. A notice of a one-time highway payment from DOT for $69,682.78. And the New Hampshire VRA Community Action Report. Next up is administrative comments. Do you have anything?
Thank you for letting me bring Lisa on board. It was a huge help yesterday. So we have a new woman in the office, and she is the CPA QuickBooks who just needs a few hours a week to keep her brain active, and we're fortunate that she came here. So that is terrific. And Eric quoted last time that everything to the auditors is all caught up, and I've asked Mr. Green when we might get an audit. I'm not coming back yet. I had several calls, probably 4 calls about Townhouse Road and animals in the road. I directed them all throughout this batch, but it seems like it's ramping up. I don't know if there's a new number of folks there, or but a lot of people are just not happy right now. And no road complaints last week. That was good. I guess going forward, I need to find someone who can take down a hornet's nest outside the other building.
That's part of our JV pest control contract.
Oh, is it?
Yep, it's a freebie.
Oh, perfect! Yay! I didn't even think of them. When the police told me, I told them it was extra. So that's huge. I need to also get a plumber because the bathrooms are acting up again. And I would like to get a quote. When our maintenance person went to a conference, there was a vendor who sells material that'll seal the asbestos floor in this building, and that way you can think about it for next year if it's something on the warrant article or something that even with what he does to try to wax them or seal them, they're just degrading. They've got all the cracks and everything. So I'd like to move forward and approach that. That's all right now.
Okay, we can get in.
Yep.
Let's see. Question, not we,
Okay, now it's the problem.
okay. Not sure if we do that. What was that?
Not we.
It's not. We may be able to go on the state site and see if they have a list of licensed contractors, because they have to be licensed for the state. And we can check and find out if there's anybody that's within a driving distance that's reasonable.
Let's see. Called Primax Insurance Company. Talked to Sally Tanner about safety suggestions for the platform that's in front of the compactors that we talked about. And she referred me to a Nicole Amadanian, and she is the risk management consultant. And she will give a call to Audrey. And if you can set up a time or whatever to, to meet with her, then I'll meet with her at the business and go over what she can give me for suggestions.
The piece of the thing is there too. That's if there's any other.
Well, I wanted to do in front of where they throw the glass too. Well, I was gonna bring that up, actually, the crew at the transfer station. came up with this- Huh?
You're talking to each other, I can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. The crew at the transfer station has asked, to possibly come up with something like a 12-foot table by 6 feet in, because people are walking right up and throwing in glass and everything, and it's quite dangerous there. They don't throw it in the wagon that's provided for them. So I will have her try and come up with something on that too. Went to the New Hampshire election law training last Thursday, it was 2.5 hours. And received a letter from Tara from the solid waste operations training coordinator. And she's advising that the state is out doing inspections at the transfer station. And gave a list of things that other stations have had problems with, concerns. And it seems to be a lot of them have the same concerns, so we'll have to get on top of that. Other than that, that's it.
The Effingham Street Fair this past Saturday was a success from basically anybody I've talked to. People loved it. Our star showing was Officer Farrow doing his demo. He actually surprised a lot of people not knowing the capabilities he had with the tracking and drug finding. They actually did set up a demo, find the drugs in the vehicle and located it just perfect. Carroll County Broadband District Planning Committee. We actually at a meeting last week chose Matt Clash as the consultant to work on creating the district framework. We have a meeting tomorrow to do the consulting contract for him to begin to do that development work for the district to create that. During the week, Audrey gave me a 91A request regarding Effingham Transfer Station Strategy Committee. I provided a written response to Audrey along with copies of summary notes from the meetings. I also contacted NHMA to find out the responsibility under law for the state. The group is considered an unrecognized group under New Hampshire law, therefore there are no 91A requirements. But based on the request, we will voluntarily host all of the transfer station strategy meetings. So if anybody wants to travel with us or meet us, we can do that. And I will also do written summaries, which I will also provide Audrey, so they'll be available within the selectman's office. Budget Chair Dave Strauss and I met with OSB Town Administrator Matt Sawyer and Parks and Recreation Director Justin Chaffee to begin discussion about a recreation contract between the towns for future services. Remember last annual town meeting, we had a sizable group of people who came in and voted very strongly to have the 30,000 appropriated. So with the work that David and I are doing with OSB, we're hoping to be able to come back very shortly to the select board here with some recommendations, and then a ton of reading material and research material if people want to see it regarding the expenses and how the numbers were arrived at. Matt did indicate subsequent to that meeting that the Austin Board of Selectmen was supportive of the discussion that was held and some of the number ranges that were being discussed. The other thing that came out of that meeting was that there's not a clear communication out of OSB regarding all the services that are available underneath that recreation contract. There's a lot of people that think it's just about kids programs. It's not. There's all kinds of adult programs. There's Constitution Park capability, the Animal Park, Duncan Beach. There's a ton of things beyond just the kids things. So we asked them to prepare a document that we can post. And they just established a new Park and Recs tab on their website. And I'll be working with Audrey to get a link to that directly. So if anybody that comes into the Effingham site wants to see what is available through the Park and Rec, they'll be able to click it and go see that website. As a reminder, the Historic Town Hall Library Project meets on the third Wednesday of the month at 6 o'clock at the library. And it is an open public meeting. Anybody and everybody is welcome to come to that meeting. The project update, as of this morning, the library is closing this Thursday, August 25th, for approximately 2 months. To basically do the powder post beetle repair work, new floors, and whatever. There will be a volunteer group between Thursday and Monday next that will clean out the entire main library area and the checkout desk. That full room is being cleaned out completely. L-Chip is also making a visit out here. I'm meeting with them with Chris Garcia on Thursday. They want to see the progress we've made to date under the first portion of the grant we have, as well as do the inspection for the second grant we applied for. They want to take a look at the proposed work and where that will be. Cobalt Construction Management will begin the powder post beetle work on 9/7. From that point forward, nobody's going to be allowed in the library until that project is done. And around September 14th, thereabouts, a day or two, one way or the other, project volunteers will be taking down the suspended ceiling tiles in that main room, and they are never going back up. So we're going to restore the ceiling height by a little over 11 inches. The volunteers will transport that demo to the transfer station. John, I know you're here, so I'll wait until you approach Lenny, so I won't cover what you have sent me. And Lenny. Oh, the one question I had is the questions on the operating plan. Are we going to deal with those today and after the meeting?
We can.
I made a request the other day to have it added, so it won't take long. I think I went over today. I think it's about 15 to 20 minute conversation.
Yeah, we'll do that. This work session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me, I have one question. I did actually have a resident call and ask me what was happening with the librarians. Are they still going to be paid because the town is shutting down the facility? Or are they going to be applying for unemployment, in which case I have to be prepared to do forms?
I think that's a great question for Amanda Stevens. She's the library director. I have no clue what their schedule is. I know there's still going to be library activities going on during then with the lending library and some of the other stuff, but I know nothing about what they plan on doing for the whole
And when are they closing?
this Thursday. I do know for the next probably 3 or 4 days after that, they'll be there moving books and shelves. Thank you.
Green Mountain Road was paving was supposed to start yesterday. Jerry called me and said that state has moved their scheduling around, so they had to move their schedule around. So probably the end of next week or right after Labor Day, we'll start paving. He said either side of the holiday, but if something changes, he'll let me know, and it could be sooner. They do have their grader. They brought their grader, fine grading. Ron finished up the gravel yesterday. They're cut some trees. They're cleaning that mess up today. And probably finish that tomorrow. So that's where that stands. And Bailey Road, I guess we're starting that right around
We
Labor Day, same time.
probably ought to post that on the town website. And maybe even forward Chris's email over to Lori Dunn, the president of the Province Lake Association, just so she can see the schedule, because they want to communicate that. A lot of people have been asking.
But Bailey Road,
What's
She's
the
not-
Bailey Road budget?
She's not
The
the
bridge.
president anymore.
no, I had this.
Oh, you got his contact.
And Lori approached me this weekend at the street fair, asking me what the schedule was, and I said we would talk today and forward that over to her after this meeting.
Okay, JP, have you heard if the warden's been in the area or not?
I gave the permit to Audrey today,
Oh,
so she
cool.
will give that to Mark when he comes in.
Excellent.
Okay, when he comes in tomorrow, even better. Oh, and he's aware too, I saw him this weekend. I told him that everything. He's gonna have a standby to make notes.
Yeah.
So I'm very-
Yeah, there's a lot to get rid of, big pile. And, you still in contact with FEMA?
Yeah, so the news I got back from the state, we have to hit $200,000 of damages in the county, as well as $2 million of damages in the state to get any federal funding. So we're putting numbers together now. There was a lot of damage over in the Lakes region as well. I'm hoping that we can make that number, but until we get numbers from all the communities, we really won't know anything. The representative I spoke with is also working on looking at other sources of in-state funding. So haven't gotten to know, but we're still working on putting numbers together for all the other communities. So the 200,000 for the county that's done. I basically reset that much once you figure in all the personnel and everything else. So and Center Oski has damage as well, and I believe Top River has some. So as far as our county, we'll hit that 200,000 no problem. It's that 2 million that we have. That'd be a heavier lift.
Okay, and Audrey gave you all our slips from the road contract.
Yes, I got all those, so that's all.
Thank you. The defibrillator, is that in the car or is that on the ambulance?
The defibrillator or the cardiac monitor?
Defibrillator,
There's a defibrillator in all of the engines as well as the
maybe
car,
it's the monitor that,
and the cardiac monitors in the respiratory, along with these therapies.
because I was approached by a citizen said that she thought she heard on the scanner that they had a call and the monitor wasn't available.
Would that have been Sunday?
I don't, no, it wasn't, no, this was a couple of weeks ago, 10 days ago.
I'm not familiar with any occurrences of the cardiac monitor not being at that point. So
She thought that's what you heard, and I said, well, I'll ask.
typically, no matter which vehicle we take, even if we go to a car accident, we're gonna take fire truck reports.
Yeah.
We bring that equipment off of the rescue and put it in, so that equipment we always bring with us.
Thanks. I said I'd ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
This guy, do we have background check on him? or-
We do, I have driving history and background, I gave that to Audrey this afternoon,
Oh, okay.
so everything has come back.
You wanna-
Do you want to-
Okay,
Does this person have a license to drive the fire truck? Or do we have to train, because I don't see anything.
He is qualified to operate fire apparatus. So he's considered a live-in at Center Oski Fire, but effectively he works full-time at Center Oski Fire in
Okay,
Preston.
because it wasn't mentioned anywhere on this resume that he drives. Most of it was like cleaning up and getting apparatus together and stuff like that. I just wanted to make sure.
He is qualified.
Okay.
We
And you
will
don't
have to
have to
train him.
train, and you're gonna have to train.
We just have to train him on our specific trucks, just because they're different than Center Oski's trucks.
Okay.
So it's just familiarizing with our trucks, but that's something we just do in-house.
And how long is that?
They take him out for a drive as long as he's proficient in the truck.
Okay.
That's that. Usually it's just a quick half-hour drive.
is he taking any EMS courses?
He is, he's actually finished his course and he's in the process of going through the national testing.
Because I see he had CPR and AED.
Yeah, he's finished his course and he's going through the national testing.
Ready? Yeah.
Make a motion to hire Sean J. Riley as a new firefighter.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Aye. So you'll let him know. With other business here. The electrical for historic town hall. That,
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize this. Okay. Yes, for the town hall project. With the powder post needle project, Cobalt Construction Management's got the primary contract. Two other contractors as part of that will be the electrical as well as the installation. That those bills will come directly through us, so Chris doesn't mark them up and just give them to us, so he's kindly avoiding, a processing fee he can charge us. The electric quote, and it's the final quote we got in from Alpha Electric out of Dover, is for $13,000. I'll make a motion to approve Alpha Electric for that work. And the money will be coming out of the project, so it's not coming out of the town. The project itself.
second that. Moved and seconded. Who's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Audrey, I don't see a request for any deposit on this one, so we will.
And the letter from the chairman of the ZBA.
Yeah, what I wanted to know, last meeting, it was in the packet too, but we didn't really give ZBA any direction. Does the board want to start finding immediately since you have 30 days passed?
He has an appeal for the rule. Oh, okay.
And that just says,
Yeah,
August
August 12th.
15th, I think.
So yeah, fine and as of the 13th.
And we actually did lose a plaster contract proposal because of some.
I heard that.
So,
Do you have any announcements? I don't. You, Vicky, it's up?
Labor Day's coming.
Yeah. School's gonna start soon too. Okay, Mike, you need a non-public or a public?
Just public.
Okay. Go on. Yeah.
I will. All right. Couple things. I got an email from the office here that talks about entering into non-publics for the Board of Health. And it kind of ties in with presenting information and request forms and in the process of doing all that on Thursday. And then Monday noon for a drop dead date. So I guess what I wanted to point out here is that's not a member of the public, that's the health officer stuff. So if I got something to bring to you, it's typically because it should be heard. And the idea of postponing 2 weeks or something, it's really, I don't think, practical. So I'm not sure that this was really thought out exactly because of JT or Joe Duchesne or anybody else, in those kind of positions needs to bring in the non-public. I don't expect to just hear it. So I was just kind of clarifying that maybe that's wasn't thought through. I don't know who constructed this or why. So hopefully it's an option at whatever point in time I need to come see you for health officer related item. That's the option that I'm trying to get on the sign up sheet. Yeah. the other thing, I guess, on this would be, I know there was a comment about speaking for 3 minutes and the plethora of information that I kind of dropped on you guys last week or 2 weeks ago for the transfer station. Well, there again, this is something that the board accepted. I made an offer to help you with something, and I know Vicky and others have had, want to know why certain functions would be undertaken for the transfer station. So the information was just an ad hoc, provide you some insight to all that could and would be involved in the research and doing some of these things. And there again, it was pretty much just to address some of the concerns that have been voiced, just to give you a sampling. And I don't really think you wanted all the information. I counted out there's 825 pages of research material, 400 to 500 of other training materials that I had and pamphlets and stuff, CD, some spiral bound, bind. I mean, you really don't want me to go out and try to put 1,250 pages of information. You're not going to read it, right? I mean, it's not the point. I'm assuming. So hopefully that's would cover some of those kind of concerns there. Again, that was mostly grant related stuff. I'm doing the work for you guys. I'm hoping that you'd be open to hearing it. Without having to go through trying to build all this stuff together. Most of this stuff, anything relevant, will be given over to the town anyway. So you won't be burdened by those assessments. So there's that, but then the other communication, which I understand, is you're trying to rein in legal costs, and so it's to get some approvals to work with the town attorney as needed. Here again, part of what we're doing is trying to build something with the whole department. Hopefully keys have come in so we can get to the bat and start setting up. But there needs to be a process, just like for the zoning officer or other things, transfer station, a violation process, kind of a step-by-step. So as we get out into the public and start looking at situations and ask for certain things to be dealt with, we're going to need to be able to have a system for filing a violation and a system to either be paid or respond to that, and the next step to enforce that violation either through a district or superior court, which I think a lot of it we could do ourselves, but I need to be able to set that system up with the attorney to make sure it's done right, checking everything off, and then we could at least start looking at properties. Can't even really go out and look at anything if you don't have a way to. So it's up to you guys to decide whether or not you should do that. There's a lot of RSAs that point to, kind of direct me that I have to do certain things if we're called. And there's RSAs that say you guys are supposed to support that with finance. It's whatever you can do. So I'd like to know if
So the request is to
contact
with the attorney, basically create the process.
yeah, lead me through its creation, implementation, and potentially to be able to do this. My hope is without actually having to have the attorney's involvement after that, unless it's a more extreme case.
Could you actually, if it was constructed right, file whatever, if we had to go to a court scenario, would you be able to file that on your own?
That's what my hope is, to do that, so that any building it in the first place and getting a step-by-step for us to do it, then simply submitting documents to a court, that should probably be pretty repetitive. And if we can just mimic that, then there again, I check with the attorney to see if that's practical. But that would be. And I know budgets are a concern. The one thing that doesn't hurt you on the bottom line, as far as technically getting you in trouble, is legal fees can't be used against you, in that or general systems.
Do you think the conversation is going to be much more than 30?
I don't know what it will entail. I think the conversation itself, the way the groundwork's probably would be done in 30 minutes. what his response would entail. I can't.
Well, my concern is how often you're gonna have to do it. Because we're already running up,
How often I would have to.
contact a lawyer.
Oh, that would only be for this. Hopefully, this would be one time of me contacting him. Hopefully, if he's concise enough, or can kind of give me a written roadmap. And then hopefully I won't have to contact. But if I have to do follow up, I'll certainly come in and speak with you folks first. Unless you guys want to try and, speak with him, construct.
I have one question. I'm just wondering, like, not turn, but, I go through Municipal Managers Association or the finance group, and I'm wondering if your health group, with people in the industry that can at least guide you at the beginning and then have a finalization by now. Because we all belong to these professional groups.
There is like a PW net that throws out questions and answers, and I do get and read that. Unless you had somebody that was really skilled at it, I don't think you're gonna find those resources there. There'll be plenty of people to weigh in, but I think that's one of the same old things that anybody NHMA will tell you. They'll give you advice to a point, but then they'll tell you to consult with your attorney, because that's the person who's going to represent you in these matters. I just don't think getting people who are probably not doing this function all the way through, or have a system already in place that they've inherited. I just think that I'm not sure that I would find. I know a number of city health officers, but I don't think they designed this thing themselves. They've got some problems. When it comes to constructing something of the legal nature like that, like I said, I just don't think that resource is out there.
What do other town health officers do for this type?
Well, I haven't had a lot of interaction with folks in the smaller communities to see how they do them, but a lot of like building code inspection folks double up as the health officer. Some towns double up or triple up on somebody that does this. But usually you get a violation process in place. So the building codes and stuff, those folks have already been established with that and have the process. They would follow that, I'm sure. We have the same thing for the transfer station. I don't think it's been tested. So I don't know that it's ever been put into play or anybody's followed through on that process. I think it would be similar to. So I think a lot of the communities that have been enforcing building codes would have a leg up on this type of thing. It's probably part of their structure. They probably have a policy and ordinance that's step by step, where they have had legal either set it up or do it for them. That's my assumption. I know with the bigger communities, a lot of this stuff gets turned over to folks. Deep bench.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the time limit. Can I agree with you on that? Could we, the three of us, and Mike, do a call with the attorney to let Mike ask that question and hear from the attorney he thinks it's going to take to do it, and then we decide how we're going to do it. And we'll just try and structure it as a 30-minute call up front with the expectation.
Yeah.
That sounds real good. Everybody involved.
Just being able to understand the upfront part of it and what he thinks it'll take to do it, where he's been working with municipalities for decades. I'm sure this is the first time he's ever been asked this question. So.
And this is a little different than most things because it's the Board of Health officer stuff. So there's that aspect. And is this something that we can do ourselves?
Well, and I think we'll be able to answer that. The board said here was right him on that response. All right, just try to set that up.
Yeah, we set that up.
Continuing on the health officer thing, I got a copy of a letter that went out to someone we've discussed as a board of health and such a number of times. I think this person is at risk, and I've tried to convey that to you folks. In this letter from the office, it states that this person must dispose of their storage according to health standards. Well, I'm not sure what is meant by health standards, and it also alludes to this proof or such has to be communicated with the office, the town selectman's office. So I'm a little vague on how that one's going to process right there, and this is just going to go to indemnification again. I've given you guys a lot of things on that, and I just want to be clear. Part of this is I know a situation I explained to you guys, which probably would have ended up in a fatality last week. I'm not going to be responsible for that, so I've let you know that, and we have processes, plans, ordinances, both zoning and health ordinances that I think come into play here, that something should be done about this. I'm not sure that this letter was the right way to go, but we're all covered from certain neglect of duty for indemnification for the courts until you get to the point where you hit a point where you know and have regulations and you're aware of situations. Then that indemnification or taking the liability off you can be circumvented by the law. It's called special duty. So if the courts connect a special duty that we have to someone, then not only does the town get sued, which in this case I think it's pretty obvious to lose, but there's a potential for us individually to be sued. So I just wanted to go on the record that I have raised concerns with the decision of this letter went out, how it went out, and what it's allowing for. And I'm not in favor of it. And I just wanted to be on the record saying that I oppose this. So whatever you do, that's my position on this. You can let this stand. I know for a fact that the situation with storage is still not being handled properly. We've had third-party agencies that do support the state witness the disposal onto the ground. There's no hookup for septic. As far as I know, I haven't been out there, but I had a discussion with this person, and it's a portable. So I'm telling you guys, I'm just trying to fly between what's right, the rules, what I'm obligated to do, and I'm just sharing with you where I think you might be putting yourself in a position. That's not any kind of threat. I'm no lawyer. I just want you to be aware that you might want to talk. Because this is like I said, this situation probably could have ended badly if I just wasn't there. So, thanks for letting me get that on the record. I need you guys to figure out what you want to do if you want to reassess that. Unless you guys have tons of really busy stuff here, I would like to give you an update that came to me Friday afternoon as far as some grants. Basically our involvement with them. So if you'll bear with me, we had tried to get a grant for Daily Road originally. I was working with DES on the ground floor of that. It's a $400,000 grant. It's a real shame because we could have used that on Daily Road. And as I said, as much as I could be sure we would have got it, I was 99.9% sure, and that would have saved $400,000 of taxpayer money. That said, I did receive this email to myself. Dear Mr. Cahalan, congratulations by submitting an application for a culvert flood risk assistance grant. You have taken a step towards implementing a project that will enhance flood resiliency, blah, 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 protect safety. So to cut to the chase of this was a ARPA plan and project, and it was for Wilkinson Swamp because the culvert out there is in bad shape. It jams up Beaver, the whole bit. It's also at a high flood risk on the model states, which means when you replace that, the state is gonna make you basically put in what you're putting in at Bailey Road. It's not gonna be a couple of culverts anymore. It's gonna be a substantial piece of concrete, call it a bridge. The model says 28 feet long, but we were awarded the grant. It has $400,000. It is unattached. You do not have to have matching funds. The thing here is, when we put this together, I worked with HEB, we said, look at how things are the cost right now, you know, a gallon of milk. We said $750,000 was our price tag we put on it. That could change, but no matter what happens, over the next 3 years, we have 3 years to get this project put together. We will get the $400,000 if we execute for end of December 26th. So, you know, down the road, if we had to pay for this all out of taxpayer money, then the day will come, it'll be pretty significant. So with that, I had a meeting scheduled for this Friday. I know Chuck's out of town next week. So Friday at 2:30, it's gonna be a link sent out that we can attend. All 3 of you can attend, if only 1 of you can attend, whatever. But we'll get more information on the steps, because there are other steps we'll have to take to solidify our position. And I covered some of that with Mr. Sweeney today, so I've got it kind of distilled down. And if you guys are staying late, maybe I should stay, because you got those bullet points that I put together, so you know, maybe you'll have a question, and I can probably give you a little more insight as to what is coming up on.
I'm already committed Friday.
The key is I'm gonna need, and Chuck was put forward on the front end of this, is to signing ability, so that you're in the room signing your life away, committing your house. It'll be good, at least one of you is there as selectman to represent the town to move this stuff. That's all I need.
Chuck, did you say you were gonna be there?
And then,
Yes.
then I'll have a consultant justification form that I worked on with Ben today to kind of figure out how we can work this. We've been involved with HEB through all this time. We've used them for a lot of things. We brought them in as a consulting engineering firm for the town. So there's a lot of requirements to engineering and how grants will be awarded if you can use your engineer and such. So there's an avenue for us to be able to stay with HEB on this, which I recommend. It started from the beginning on it. So we'll be looking to fill that out as much. So anyway, that was the good news on that grant. And although we got letters of support that helped
So
us.
like, is either one of those actually an application, or is it just? It's an actual application for me to sign it and you go vote. That's what I'm asking.
At this point, no.
Okay.
It's the signing authority. It'll go in steps, so there will be a next step. The governor's council will weigh in at one point, and the executive council will weigh in. And with their approval, it'll finalize and solidify our role. But at some point, there will be the signing authority to accept the grant and all like that. And you might want to make a motion or whatever in case it comes up in an inopportune time, that you have the signing authority. There's no obligation. If you can't, the town can't exercise this down the road, these funds will go back into a pool somewhere and get redistributed. So it's not like you're putting a deposit.
It's not a penalty.
Right. But we had, I had solicited some letters of support to help with this. I won't read them all to you, obviously, take the time here, but we had the Conservation Commission, which has a big involvement when you do anything wetlands and stuff. So Emmeline Albert, as chair, submitted a very nice supportive letter, as did JT over there from the fire department, and Joe Duchesne from police chief. And I think I'll just read John Hatch from Action Ambulance. This is not an in-house guy. And I think it'll sum it up to the public why this is probably a good project for the town. So, to whom it may concern, this letter is in support of the grant application for funding to replace the failing culvert on Wilkinson Swamp Road, town of Effingham. Action Ambulance Service Inc. has the EMS contract for 6 towns in the Ossipee Valley area of New Hampshire, including Effingham. Our ability to respond to the most expeditious route is critical for the most effective patient care possible. It should be noted, we do not have ambulance based in the town of Effingham. Action Ambulance has strategically based our units to best service this area, very large rural area, out of 2 bases of operation. It is well documented that Action Ambulance does provide greater improved response time than previous providers. However, some areas of Effingham can still require 25 to 35 minutes of response time to get our staff on to scene. Again, a detour of 6 miles, which this would be for some folks, would pose a risk to anyone requiring critical care. And in this area, every second counts. So that was from John Hatch. And I think it sums it up. We have kind of a pocket out there that's it's hard to get to, certainly in winter time. But some folks, this would expedite being able to get any of our emergency services, police, fire, or the ambulance. Thanks to those folks that supported that. And certainly the HEB, the technical stuff, I wouldn't have been able to do a lot of technical knowledge. And just following up real quick with the grant stuff, there is a new grant opportunity that came out actually last year, but there's $2.2 billion for infrastructure. I've got to call out to the government, the federal government on that, because there's an opportunity there, and they're giving away millions upon millions of dollars with a cap of 25 million. Some of this seems to target 50% of this is for rural areas, and bridges and roads we mentioned. So I'll look into it and get back to you with some of that. We do have 2 more grants that are still outstanding that we applied for. So there's that, and lastly, there's the transfer station. There's $50,000 that we need to get our ducks in a row, because that still should be for just to be able to claim.
When's that after?
December. So the USDA paperwork is exhausting. I did call John Muse, who's the area director, but he was out of office today. I actually had spoken with him before. So there is that option, and that was again free money. You know, it was there, and they were looking to give it to us before I explained the concept of what our needs were there. And there's another $375 million that's just come available. Applications are coming out in the next 2 months, and that is for transfer stations. Don't have a lot of information on it, but it's an EPA item, and it goes funding available for 275 million, 55 million nationally per year from fiscal year 22 to 26. No match requirements, and that's for transfer station infrastructure. So there's a lot of opportunities there. And I can talk to you guys more another time, work sessions or something, if there's something on you'd like to pursue. That's it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I just want to remind everybody about, pardon me? Yes, it is comment.
No, it's not comment.
Not yet.
I thought it was.
JT. You're on.
All right, so 47 calls so far this month.
Sorry, I missed that.
27 calls so far this month. So another busy month so far. Our members have been pretty busy with training. Brandy and Dan Fields completed trench rescue technician a couple weekends ago. That weekend that it was super nasty hot. Dan Fields also completed a confined space technician. Brandy Fields has just started her firefighter 2 certification. Joel Chick has just recently earned his firefighter 2 certification. I'm starting the strike team leader training tomorrow, as well as the fire investigator, fire inspector training Those are both last until November, so lots of training coming our way. We already talked about the storm funding. Engine 3 had a critical failure on call a couple weeks ago. Engine shut down and couldn't get restarted. We were able, with the tow truck's assistance, to get it back running. It's currently at Rochester Ford being evaluated. They believe it's a failure in the DEF system, which has been recalled. So hopefully that'll all be covered in the recall. But who knows? So not really sure what's going to happen with that, but definitely didn't want to take any chances to put it back in service even though I think that is all I have right now.
Any timeline on repairs?
It's been there for almost a week now, and I haven't heard a word from them. I know they were reaching out to Ford Corporate to figure out whether or not the symptoms it exhibited were the same as what was recalled, things like that. There are DEF filters and things like that that have been recalled in that DEF system. We did already have some replaced back in March. So we're trying to figure out what exactly could be causing the symptoms. Don't expect that to happen.
I think the first recall, I think, McDonald Motors Conway did it, correct?
There's been a DEF heater and DEF filters. All related to that DEF system.
That not gonna be
Yeah, it's diesel exhaust fluid. It's the new special.
Do we put any good fluid?
Napa brand. I don't know if it was really good.
Nor is an aspen. My brother just traded a diesel truck after 2 years of dealing with that.
Yeah.
And it was because he was buying the fluid at Walmart. And he went and bought the good fluid. It was 3 times the money, but it had no issue whatsoever. So, you know, fluid does work.
Definitely good to know. So I have.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question to the fire department? Are we still here?
Sure.
I'm just curious, what the room occupancy here is. We can't go outside when we have 7 people here. Is that above capacity?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be doing, I gotta take measurements and I'll do an official calculation. We'll be posting that in the coming.
Joe's not gonna make it?
It's not.
Okay. All right, I'll open it up, public comment. Vicky?
Now, if you don't.
Yeah, you can go.
You know I don't like waiting. I just want to remind everybody that Effingham Neighborhood Watch will be meeting here on Saturday at 2 o'clock. And we will be doing a presentation with Homeland Security. The police department and the fire department, I think, will be here unless there's anything going on. I don't want to even say the words. But we'll see. And Lenny's gonna be here to let us in, and we might be able to coax him into staying so he can meet the lady from Homeland Security.
Do I need to?
Yeah,
Need it?
you should. You should have selected president or whatever they call you. But,
Okay. Steve?
Steve Regan, Miller Road. I have an observation and a question. First observation would be concerning the administrator's comments about the animal problems on Townhouse Road and the reports of them. I can safely say that anybody that I've spoken to that's in my area of Effingham will say that should have had more reports, but we don't bother anymore because nothing gets done. It's the same thing, day after day after day. Nothing gets done. You go by there, it's like being in the middle of the zoo. So why call? Why take the time if no one's going to do anything? So that's the observation. The question is, who oversees the logging that's going on in our town? Who makes sure that all of these sites, I'm not talking storm damage, I'm talking actual logging that's going on. Who makes sure that all of them have been okayed by the town, that they've gotten permits for it, and who follows through and makes sure that they pay? That's what I'd like to know.
The town forester is in charge of all the cutting operations that goes on. And David keeps very good track of all he intends to cut and all the yield taxes that are coming from that.
Are all these logging operations submitted intents to cut, or there's some going on that haven't?
No, everyone, I mean, we sign every week every 2 weeks now. We sign at least one intent to cut. I don't think there's
All of
anything-
a sudden, places are getting stripped out, and you don't know for sure if they've been okayed or what, or who's doing it.
Yeah.
And I wanna make sure that they're being overseen.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
Steve,
yes,
near the entry to that cut, there is supposed to be a copy of the permit posted, visible to anybody that starts in that entryway area.
all right, because I know that there's one at the entrance to my road for that abomination that's up the top there, there's one there. But I just wanted to make sure that everything is being captured, because it's going on everywhere.
I'd like to just make a comment about on Green Mountain Road, there's all going on. David and Rebecca know about it. We emailed them to let them know. There's no permit on the tree. To let everybody know that they have done everything right. David said that that the permit is on its way. We haven't got all the people that signed it. Never issued it yet, but he told them to go ahead and start anyway. And I don't know, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble or anything. That's the kind of thing that makes people think you don't need to get your stuff. I'm not sure that's really the way.
is that the one by,
Yeah, the fact of the matter is,
881.
when I was waiting for my permit, for building my barn, David said, "You're all set. Your permit will come as soon as Rebecca gets around to signing it or whatever." He said, "You can start anytime." I did. Because I've been doing this a long time, and I said to myself, you know what? You don't do it until you get.
one question, the intent to cut was sitting here. But we only meet every 2 weeks, so we just signed it today. And all they were doing was making a landing while they had the excavator there. They're not gonna cut till sometime this morning.
But for whatever reason, I'm not privy to.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it may not be the best policy to tell people to go ahead and do stuff without their permit in hand.
No, he had the excavator right here, so
That's
before
up
he
to you guys.
took it home, he wanted to make his land.
Would have saved us.
That was Ron Evans. He
Yeah,
bought- he
it
bought
doesn't
that.
matter who it is.
Yeah, he bought that
The other
property,
thing you're talking about was me. So,
but he bought that property, so.
yeah, I'm not. I had the opportunity to start without my permit in hand too. I just.
Yeah.
Just wondering if that's the best policy to go.
So since we're on the forestry conversation, I had follow up from a few weeks ago about the town forest. As, well, 10 years ago, they looked at a log in there. And they finding that's pretty heavily going in there. Violation was happening in the wetlands. But last Monday, they started logging again. I think when I was here 6 weeks ago, it was understood that they were coming. Well, Monday, they started logging heavily again. And double tractor trails, chip trucks coming out. When I contacted the office, I was told, first I contacted the conservation. They knew nothing about anything going on in town. When I contacted this office, they said how much money is cut. No money's coming in from the town. They needed some wood from the station in the town. And so I'm thinking, well, 30-acre cut, a lot of wood going by my house, big wood, I went in there. It's also South River Marsh, the Conservation Commission paid, I think, $12,000 back in 2008 to have Rick Mandel come in and document the wetlands in there, and it was being exemplary wetlands for the town of Effingham, it's a special place, and it's somewhere around. So my question to you is quite exciting to me. Town land, how much is the town making? What are you doing with the money? Why wasn't the conservation contacted? Is it in fact done that? Because 10 years ago, Jeff Libby told me it's not going to be cut for another 20 years. So, well, was the change, who made the change and why? Where's the money?
It's supposed to be-
You talk to Jeff.
So Blair, let me kind of start towards the last of what we're going to do. So the reason they're in there right now is after that microburst came through, there were a ton of trees that came over that were loggable. So they were strictly going back in to clean up all of the down trees as a result of the storm.
So does that allow them to go where it's wet? Because it's a microburst?
I don't know the answer to that question. The first cut you're referring to 6 weeks ago was a good sized cut
3 acres.
on behalf of the town. Part of that timber that was cut was donated to the townhouse project. So we mean the town hall project.
3 acres is a lot of trees.
No, the remainder part of that is coming back to the town. Whatever the income is off the remainder part of that is coming back to the town.
So that should show the intent to cut how much money. Or I'd like to see the slip from the line where it's going. I'd like to see the town, and if the town is making money, I suggest it goes to the Conservation Commission to conserve the wetland that has been potentially harmed. When are you gonna know how much money you're getting? Is someone overseeing that?
Yeah,
We have Mr. Palin talk about how much money he's gonna spend. You guys are authorizing him to talk to the attorney. I'm like a taxpayer here, and I never have flipped out financially. I'm flipping out financially, mismanagement of my tax money, please. 7, trees are good resource for the town, and somewhere there should be public documentation as to what you're making of these trees when it's town property and there's a violation potentially of the wetlands.
Jeff's an employee of the town. So when he gets done his job, he provides the information to the town. And from what I understand, he's been doing that a decade or two. So it's not new. I don't know how long it takes from the cut to when he gets back to paying us. But since I've been setting up here, I've seen those come back in every year. So we've done the cuts, we've gotten money.
Right, and then does that just go into the general fund?
Has to.
It has to. Even though it's town forest, it doesn't go to the conservation. I wondered why the conservation commission wasn't being alerted to this.
I'm not aware of any policy that is a requirement.
I don't know, yeah. Do any cut without, you don't have to notify the butters. Any dog operation.
You are aware, you, Lenny, for sure, are aware that they paid money, town money, to have a scientist in 2 years studying the wetland, create a brochure, somewhere there's a brochure, I think it's up there, on the exemplary wetland south of the marsh, is that possible? So knowing that, wouldn't you be just courteous to say, oh, we should let the conservation commission know? Don't you think Jeff Libby, who has relatives on the conservation commission, might be a courtesy to let them know?
Well, I'm sure Jeff had told his father, I don't know, but Jeff was in charge of that. Whole operation. He went in, tagged all the trees, showed
So,
where,
but you must have asked him to do that, because I was told 10 years ago he wasn't gonna come in there. He was so adamant about that. He met with Dr. Manifold, he was assured, no, we're not gonna cut in here again. We understand this black person here is further south, it shows up, blah, blah, blah. And he wasn't going to cut. So I'm just really curious where that suddenly shifted. Why? Did it not come from the selectmen? Did it? Because he wanted to.
No, I think the historic town hall project asked if there was anything on town property. And Jeff went in and looked at that. He also looked at the one up at Woodland Cemetery and said, yes, there's marketable timber there. So he went in and knocked it all
How
out.
does the citizen suggest or ask that the policy becomes a conservation commission for any type of large, and to me, 30 acres on a town property is so much of town property is small. It'd be really nice if there was a process where the conservation commission before it goes in. What's the process of that?
We can ask Jeff to do that. in the future from now on.
like as a policy, like does that need to be, I know that, there was something years ago about that, that's what it. Now, we help that out. So if there's a way to get something in writing, it says this is now going to be our policy going. That we will be.
We can talk about that. Talk over with Jeff. What do you think?
One other thing. So, thank you for answering. I wasn't here last night, but I heard they were upset. So that was amazing. And when you guys were talking about the fine, finding a poor guy or dying friend on Townhouse Road, and you're gonna find him, why the heck are you not finding Nina for illegally installing those tanks in the drinking water protection area? There's liquid in those tanks. Hopefully it's not gas. Had to put liquid in because the groundwater is so high there that the tanks would have floated. The dirt was removed and spread somewhere on the beach that is contaminated. Why are they not being found?
It's a case in progress right there.
I think that's a much more dangerous precedent than this poor guy who has signs up on town. I think that's just justice not concerned. And I just was wondering, as health officers, when we have this person who can support us, if you guys really oversee the town as a health officer, why are you not tracking what's going on? Effingham doesn't have to apply all those houses are in loss. It's a health issue. There was a man here last night, he wrote me this morning, he has MS, he used to live in Effingham. He lived on Lost Valley, now he lives across the border, but he's right. And if he can't walk, he was in Vietnam, he's 70 something. He was out here in the hall, no one let him come in. He stood out there in the hall with the cane, and he said to me this morning, when he wrote me, he said, why doesn't anyone care the fact that my well is 200 feet from this? They keep talking about public well 500 feet. So my well is 200 feet, and no one cares. And I had my well tested for the phosphate. And Oscar doesn't care. So I just feel like you guys, I hope that this business is not. It's not going to change for your tax money coming. It doesn't change whether it's market investment, it's the same tax revenue.
There's no decision been made by the planning board yet, so.
And I hope that the venue's not going to hear that. That's not right.
Well, it's the only place we have for that, so,
You have town meeting in the school,
on a Saturday.
so tell the planning board they need to have. It's just not fair to people who. So it's really embarrassing.
Always Zoom. We still have Zoom.
Well, that was, I guess, it should be Zoom last.
Dave, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I decided.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. Perhaps Chuck, maybe you can answer this. Apparently with the Ossipee Rec Department, you mentioned Constitution Park and Duncan Beach. Was that to say that those are areas that the population of Effingham can access and use
Today.
as
Can
it
access
stands
it
today?
today. And the problem is nobody knows about it.
And that's, well, that was my point, to kind of bring that forward, and if there's any kind of rules and regulations, hours, or any forms to have an event, a ball game or whatever, hopefully that gets conveyed to the folks in Effingham.
I asked, Dave and I asked the Park Recs director to pull that information together now. We're meeting again right after Labor Day for the next part of the contract. We plans on having all that information available for us. And I'm gonna be working with Audrey to get the link to the new Parks and Rec tab on the Oscar website, because it also defines everything that's available. So we just want to make sure that when people look at the Oxby site, they're also totally aware it's also Effingham. So that's why they need to add an Effingham piece for it
Yeah, it sounds like it's probably been underutilized because
for years.
probably people aren't aware. So I do have two questions about the transfer station. One is that there was a discussion about mock inspections, which would probably, if we were selected for that from DES for training purposes, it might help us understand where our deficiencies are, probably record retention. You guys did a great job with the facility. Did anybody make a call to Tara Albert to see if, I know you voted on that. Was there any kind of communications?
I did make the call and Tara's quite busy right now. Forms will be coming out to apply in early September.
Okay, great.
So I'm on the mailing list.
And then I was a part of a meeting at the transfer station where Pete Lapachelle from Waste Management came in and met with the group and gave some information on where the, cost and as well as the industry was probably heading in the next few years. There was a surcharge that was proposed by Waste Management. It's not super complicated. It's a little complicated to explain to the average person right now off this piece of paper. But essentially it was looking at about $1,300, or maybe it was $1,500, maybe on a 6-month basis, could be a cost passed to the town for fuel surcharge. Have you made any determinations on that, participating on that, deciding?
We haven't seen anything.
I actually had a discussion with Pete after that meeting.
Yeah.
And I asked him to pull together his final numbers and then make an appointment with the office to come in and present it to the board of selectmen. He said it would be 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
So he's prepping it, he's busy, but he's planning on coming in and talk to us.
I think it points to that industry, the increases we'll likely see. And I just want to say, as for myself, things that I do for the town outside of this year, having a stipend for the health officer, I don't charge for ink, paper, printing, mileage, gas, or anything I've done on grants and stuff. So there's no money that I'm expending on the town's behalf to try and get grant money and whatever. So it coming up with $400,000 this time isn't a bad thing. I'm trying to offset the cost, like Blair said. I think we're all concerned about tax dollars. I mean, that's almost at today's rate, that's a little under $2 on everybody's tax rate. 400,000.
So we're hitting maybe taking a cut of that 400,000.
I'm thinking I could go on a commission level here.
Is that a matching grant? Isn't that a 40-60 match?
No, ma'am, that's a straight money dump with no match required. Not at all. 400 straight cash to you.
Awesome job.
I have a couple of things that I want to talk about.
I have some pictures that I want you to have a look at, and while you're looking at those, I want to ask a question of Mike. How much have you earned through your grant findings for the town?
Have I earned?
Yeah, have you?
I haven't earned.
Well,
I haven't earned anything.
no, that's not what I meant. But how much money worth of grants have you obtained for the town?
I guess that's 730,000 with this one over 5 years. We have 2 outs now. And if I end up doing the transfer station grant for 50,000 from USDA, that'd be 50. So, but we have other opportunities. I don't know. It's right now about 730.
And comment there, what he's done for the town. Anytime he's qualified and willing to do something for us, I would let him do it, and I would help him. If that's at all possible. Have you had a chance to look at those books?
Yep.
I guess we're getting back to Townhouse Road. And I just wanted to say, things, living next to something like this is unbelievable. I had to do this myself. And we ended up having to move custom. Because nothing would be done. No one would do it. Your home is supposed to be, you have a right to enjoyment of your property. Right? And you shouldn't be subjected to, the devastation that you see in those pics. That's $1,500 to $2,000 worth of damage to some beautiful trees. Sure. This isn't the first time. I showed in those pics, one pic that there was damage from another time. It's got damage in apple trees in the back. Some of these trees he's counting on for edible apples and things. Some just for the beauty for everyone to enjoy around it in itself. All for a lack of a neighbor doing the right thing, put the fence up or whatever. I want to meld, or yeah, go ahead if you want. Go for it. I want to kind of meld this into the fact that we stopped on pretty much all of the boards from using attorney to get on anything new. This isn't the only one in town, but this is a drop in the bucket. And these things don't stop and wait for you to catch up again. They get worse and worse and more because one will see that and do it, and another. I think stopping the attorney on these boards is a mistake. I think that it would be far better, if at all possible, to make the fiscal end of this work. As far as the townhouse road is concerned, this particular gentleman has not, sends things in all the time and doesn't even get as much as an email back to let him know that he received it. I don't think that's the way to go. And I don't think that's really the way this town wants to function. This is a law-abiding citizen who has done everything right. Doesn't go out looking for trouble. It's found him. So just want to bring that up, that there could be some ways that the town can do a little better. I'm hoping that there's a way we can reinstall the use of an attorney for the boards, because we need it. We can't do anything without legal representation or at least opinion.
We didn't vote to stop the attorneys. We just wanted to just kind of rein it in a little bit.
Well, we were told that the boards were not to use the attorney on any new items. That I believe is what email said.
Trying
So-
to rein the cost in, that's all. I mean, we got
Again,
litigation going
We
on.
didn't say
You can't just-
I can see where that's a great reason, but what I'm saying is it's myopic for the future. I think that the better answer is to try and see how we can make the fiscal end of this work. And after saying that, I want to also just mention that it's come to my attention that David Hines' hours have run out as far as what he's been doing for Rebecca. And I just wanted to state that what he's done has been excellent work. And I hate to see that end. all of these things cost us more by allowing them, others, all this stuff that we're trying to prevent from going on and increasing because others see this kind of thing happen. So, please, I urge you to try to find some other way other than cutting this out altogether. Let's do something else.
If I may, John Davis, 669 Thomas Road. So, Chuck, thanks for forwarding the pics of videos. I don't get a chance to share them with the rest of the.
I have not yet.
Anyway, so I submitted to Chuck, because of the video size of the file, can't email it for some reason, size, I guess. But I submitted it, right?
Okay.
And so I forwarded that along to Chuck, and then I sent the board at Joe Duchesne's, Chief Duchesne. For the past 4 or 5 weeks of goats and, you know, the damage is doing the property. So every night that I come home, or every few days, there's something added to the destruction of the property. There's 3 chandelier pairs and they're $125 a piece. And it goes on and on and on. So if you would account right now today, and I've taken pictures and forward them along and document dates. There's 18 trees or shrubs or plants on my property that the goats across the street have videos. Okay. Then I asked you a couple months ago to come look at it. You were too busy. I was gonna ask the board to come out and look at it just first, because I don't know what to do next. So a number of, so I come home from work, the stone walls are rolled down the hill. It's terraced on both sides of the house. So the stone walls are rolled down. Trees are eaten. The hostas are all gone. I rake it up. I take pictures, rake it up, put the stones back. 2 days later, they're down on the property again. Put them, take pictures again, put them up. Second tier now down. They're down back, they're in the field, they're at the neighbor's house. You guys know all this, you see it every day you drive by. Everybody's more than aware. I've been fighting this battle for 12 years. But the goat thing, okay, not new, certainly not new to me. So some of the questions I have is, what can I do? Town isn't doing anything. No offense, the town isn't doing anything. It's my battle every day. Those trees I purchased, those trees I planted, installed myself. Okay. Again, Lenny, I'll use you. You have a nice property down there. You cover your blueberry bushes. I planted Colorado spruce like you did, blue spruce like you did. Everything's well manicured and taken care of. You wouldn't put up with this for 1 second. With having this bullshit across the street from your property, and most of us wouldn't. Most of us wouldn't. I asked you to come by and just look, just give me some insight as a representative of the town. Say, hey, Lenny, what do I do? How do I solve this friggin' problem? Nothing. Drive by and wave, but we don't stop. I'm certainly not impressed with that. Other questions are, has Kate even been notified? We all know about the court thing and the pending and all this other stuff. We've been battling that for years. Has Kate even been notified about her goats, like that they're off property? I mean, she's there. She pulls up in the yard. They're on my property down the road. She gets out, throws a bag of grain on the ground, some beef and chicken, rips a container, throws it on the ground for the dog. There's a 5-gallon pail of water, bucket of water, dumps it in a pail in the driveway, and she's there 10 minutes and drives away. Has anybody even approached her to say, hey, look, this can't be done, you gotta surrender your goats, you gotta do something, fence them in? What's the status? Like, has anybody even talked to her about it?
That I can't answer. I haven't talked to her.
Vicky, have you ever talked to her?
I've talked to her, but not about that, nothing to do with that.
So what would you do right
I
now?
didn't ask you, John.
Chuck,
So I actually talked to Joe, Chief Duchesne,
thank you.
who actually had
I didn't mean
somebody
to
come up from the
exclude you.
state.
Yeah.
The state said because the laws for agriculture in this state are so poorly written, there's nothing the state could do with any of those animals going off property. And I said, if it went on my property and did that kind of damage, it'd probably get my freezer. And he said, and I would come out and arrest you.
That's
Apparently,
exactly,
the law says
and I know that.
you cannot handle the animal on your property doing damage to your property. So with the pics you had with the chief last night, I'm hoping because of the damage component that's there, that's documented date and time, that he can file some kind of a criminal action for that scenario. And I don't know the answer to that question, so.
So. Can you not press charges against her for the damage?
So that's
Why
what,
are you leaving it up to the county?
so,
What I'd like to know.
so it's not just my property. It's also, I use this term in this town quite often, is civic pride. Then there's public safety. I hear people chirping alarms, laying on the horn, screaming obscenities out the window. Summertime, 5 o'clock in the morning on, everybody's rushing to work, screaming at the goats, laying on the horn. This Kate doesn't even live there. Nobody's even at the property. Doesn't affect her, even if she did, didn't affect her anyway. She's attention seeking to the nth degree. So she digs this stuff, but she's not even on site. She's not even on property. So I don't know. So can I go after her? I'm sure I can. So thus far, I've contacted a shrubbery company and 2 landscape companies to come out.
To what?
2 landscape companies to come out and appraise the value of those trees, current state, current size, have them all removed and replaced, and then the lawn put back in. I have to start somewhere, so I'm trying to get a number to decide whether I go to keep or not. Other people have suggested that I go to the town because the town hasn't done anything. Never looked into that. I don't know. That's a slippery slope. I don't know I don't know where that
Have
goes.
we not done anything?
You sent the police chief there.
We have
We
proceeded
have
to
the state gone there.
We've had 2 or 3 different state departments
Right.
out there, and essentially every time it's like because of the way the laws are written, she's
So
just
this
at
is
the
that
very
we haven't done
edge
it.
of what it takes.
So
to go
if I have a farm and I have problem with deer overrun, my crops, my this, I'm allowed to take deer with a permit, blah, blah, blah. But because it's farm life, poorly written laws, I cannot shoot. So do I just keep funding this and picking up rocks every night and all these trees and all this damage? Or do several things, do I go after Cape, town, what, state?
I'd like to also say that it's been done. It's taken her to court. She was found guilty.
Good point.
Was told to pay him in restitution and never did.
6 years ago, I won in court over some shrubs.
So it's not like he hasn't tried everything. It's
Done
not
that,
like he's
this, she didn't pay. They warned her a couple times, it went nowhere. Then Ian actually, when he was acting, he came out to reinstate that, to say, hey, did you ever get paid? No, I didn't. I'm gonna look into that. Thank you, he did. Brought it back to court, started the whole process all over again. And it's something like between her and the DOJ that she sends a check to the DOJ, a monthly installment. And once the payments have been made, then I get that check after the fact, like in the quarter of the following year. At this point, I don't care about the money. I just need the damage. It's embarrassing. I run into people at Hannaford's, I run into family members, friends. What do we talk about? The goats and Kate. Not the summer, not the family, not the friends, not house things. That's what we talk about. Every person I run into is Effingham. Crazy.
12 years, she's been going on. The other thing is those trees that $100 or whatever we paid for, them, we put in young. He's been growing them, loving them, nurturing them all these years. There's no pay. There's only this is pay. This isn't right. Frankly, my interpretation, I'd like to meld this into again. We need to be able to access the attorney in our boards or to be able to property.
there's nothing the attorney's gonna be able to do in this case.
I have a question.
With this particular
This is
scenario.
part of it. This is part of it.
This is the scenario you're asking about.
I'm not saying in this
It's not an
particular
attorney's scenario.
case, the attorney's gonna help out. I'm saying for all the other cases like this in town that are happening, we need to be able to start new stuff. We need to be able to get out there and do our jobs. That's what we want to do.
I have a question. These farming laws that you're saying so poorly written, do they condone open range? Isn't an owner of his animals responsible for those animals and the property that he's on? Or can they go anywhere?
It's a
I will,
really,
Steve, I'll be more than happy to forward to the office the emails I have on this, on that very question around the state laws and what you can do and can't do. And I'm gonna tell you, she doesn't have to put up a fence, it's not required. The animals can go across onto the property across the street. There's nothing that can be done underneath the Aggie laws to put that animal back over in that property.
About town laws, don't we have anything to protect our citizens? John's a citizen, she doesn't even live in this town, and she's perpetrating all of these destructive actions. And she gets protected for how many years? Ever since I've been coming to these meetings, I've sat here and listened to the crap about her and how this whole town is handcuffed by her. Oh, you can't talk because we have a case going against her. Oh, the cops come out and she won't allow them on the property. That's crap. This guy's been going through too much, and I don't want it to happen in my place. I don't think anybody else does either. So we see it and say, well, we're screwed if somebody moves in and does the same thing to us, because you're not gonna help us. That's so wrong, it's unbelievable. You're supposed to be taking care of your citizens, not a problem.
Elaine Chip House Road, I just have a question around that same discussion. The zoning ordinance, would that be something that could be changed to put in a requirement that agricultural animals be fenced? Yeah. I mean, is that a realistic thing? We could then put
Great
that
idea.
as a new
Great
zoning
idea.
ordinance
Good work.
and bring it up for town meeting.
And I'll bet it'll pass.
It might.
It doesn't count in the situation that we're talking about, because she's grandfathered, but at least it helps going forward and get that population.
Is she grandfathered if she gets new animals all the time?
She's grandfathered because she's there before the law existed. But I'm not
but
sure.
again, I'd like to talk to the attorney about that.
Something wrong when you guys can't protect the citizens. Really something
I know you
wrong.
wanna weigh in on this grandfather thing.
Yeah, I think that's a little different of a land use item. My concern wouldn't be that it would be grandfathered. My concern would be whether the state would allow you to regulate that level. Because the state gives you the authority to regulate certain things to a point, provided they allow you to regulate that industry. That's one of the different things. It's kind of like logging. A lot of what a town might want to do restricting certain logging things, it's actually not applicable under the law. You can't do it. Towns can't do it. So this would be a great question for an attorney.
Yeah.
So I just wanna add, thank you, Steve, first of all, but I just wanna add to, your frustration. So, next across from me, a family member at Kate's house got pulled over for driving under suspension. And I was asked to go to court because I witnessed it. We did court.
Yeah, any reputation things here.
So,
Be careful.
Yeah.
so this is about the animal trespassing. There were 17 cases of animal livestock trespassing against the same person. Okay. But if she agreed to driving after suspension, they'd waive the 17 counts of animal trespassing.
Sounds like a bag job to me, John. I don't know about you.
And that went through. That was the plea. You cop to that, we're gonna waive all the 17 animals. those were on my property, damaging my apple trees down there.
Right.
All my browsing, starving for food, picking up apples, broke off branches. And they let that go because of. I feel
One more thing on that, I think John can clarify this, but I don't believe those 17 situation individual events, they were packaged up to actually make a case, and I believe that was the sheriff's department. I don't.
Excuse me, it was, absolutely.
So I don't want that to sound like it was the Effingham police.
Yep.
Who might try to, they're not on duty all the time, so we have some overlap with other agents.
Thank you, Mike.
One more question.
Another question. I just want to let you know that I'm not blaming you guys. Just bringing out the facts that are out there. And I know that you're aware of a lot of the stuff that's happened to John, but I also want to make sure that we really do need the facts. This is part of it. This is part of the results of what happens when things are not attended to.
The attorney attended to this case.
Well, the attorney is in the process of attending this case. One portion. We are gonna get results soon, I hope. Or at least an answer soon, and who knows about the results, but it shouldn't be anything to deter us from doing things for the rest that are out there.
Good question.
I don't want the wrong thing to be heard on the tapes. I was involved in case house. I was involved with the select board, and for years, the budget committee has asked the select board to rein in legal. We've asked for this many previous select boards, and all the select board did was agree that if the board, a committee, a commission needed to go to the town attorney to contact them first. Didn't mean you didn't have the authorization to do that. They wanted you to go to NHMA for free because we're so far over the budget to try and control it. So never were they trying to hinder a board, committee, or commission from contacting. So I'm not responding to anything. I'm giving you facts that if a commission or board or a committee needs to go, the legal attorney, the select board said, go to them first, and they will determine whether they will approve you to go to that. So that doesn't mean you can't. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. Did you understand it that way?
It was to go to the board and for any new cases is what I understood and get permission. And years past, way back, this is showing my involvement age. There was a form that used to be filled out by boards and such to contact them. So it's not unprecedented. As far as boards go, I'm not entirely sure that you can restrict them from seeking an attorney, but I get the idea of what you're trying to do. You're trying to keep an eye on your budget. I know I've seen your budget, and it looks horrible for this year. It's the worst I've ever seen it. So oversight over the budget is long overdue. Again, I'll just say that the legal line isn't the one that puts you in jeopardy as a board for whatever that's worth.
This is like a bad Western B movie, where you get one clown that runs roughshod over everybody, and you don't do a thing about it. Everybody looks and go, oh, wow, that shouldn't happen, and then you say, oh, that couldn't happen, it's just a movie. That's crap.
We're trying.
This is happening here.
We're trying. We're trying.
Wendy, before you close everything out, can I just leave this with you guys? This was found, it's a document that the town actually had out back. I was helping Carol Fish to clean out some old equipment, and this was in a pile of things to be thrown away, and I think Chuck can really appreciate this. It's a town of Effingham accident report. It was done by others that preceded us, but it's really well done. It is a great document, and it probably would come in useful if anybody gets hurt on the top. I'd like to leave that with you. And I mean, look, I know you're looking for a break and changing the subject. I don't know, everybody else wants to move on, but that's my shot.
I want to change the subject again also. I was in the process of signing off checks, and I noticed in the manifest that you have $125,500 going to the trustees and trust funds for this month, for this payment. Normally, you don't send that out until November or early December so that you can capture the insurance on these funds. And I just wanted to be sure that you do want to pay this week. Because you've got a big manifest going on this week.
You need it for the police cruiser and the first somehow, those are the two big items.
Yeah.
So you want to spend it off. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you just lose the interest on it, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we needed it for the,
It was discussed a couple weeks ago here.
anybody have anything else? We're gonna have a quick work session after this. You're welcome to stay if you want. I know everybody wants to. That's up to you.
Hot.
I got this for you.